Yo. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Your boy Professor Pitch back in the building, trying to get active. Currently going through the weekend analysis right now, putting down on the charts for what I think will be best for this upcoming week. A little bit different analysis this week. Still the same psychology behind where we're identifying our levels. Just kind of looking on the higher time frames to kind of get a more firm basis of where these levels are that we're trying to identify, or that I'm trying to identify where potentially get active from. AU, I have not reanalyzed AU from last week simply because I had trade ideas based off the way I had the chart analyzed, and I'm looking to see where price action plays out. So I'll go ahead and I will show on the charts what I was looking for coming from last week's price action. That way, when we get to the end of the video, I'll come back and I'll reanalyze any AU and we can see for the most part what's going on. Let's go down to the 1 hour. The what we saw was from last week. What, bro? I done told you for the last 2 hours, 3 hours, I was about to get active on these charts. All right, so last week's price action was kind of confusing because we were ultimately in an uptrend from like July 22nd, higher highs and higher lows back in from over there. And what we can see was price action pushed and created high and just started melting. So if we're expecting this uptrend to continue, we try to identify levels where price action can retrace back to before resuming bullish. And the first level ultimately should have been right down here based off a 4 hour chart. As you see, price action get to that level, very small bullish reaction, and it continued to melt. So at that point, it's like, oh man, we're not continuing the bullish trend. Are we going bearish? How much far are we going to go bearish? So back in over here, I tried to catch some buys and got schmacked. Let's zoom in back in over here. As we came back down to, I don't think I might have tried to take buys from over here and got smacked again. But once I started to identify that the bullish outcomes were not playing out, I kind of jumped back out to the weekly, to the monthly, and that's where I kind of got, the trade ideas that I was in coming from Friday, where I got it from. So I just jumped out to the monthly, and I said, okay, what is price actually doing? Okay, so we were bullish, high, low, higher, high. At this point, we're starting to resume back bear, or we're starting to go bearish. You got a high point, you got a low, it's a lower high. You can see lower low right up in here, equal high, lower high. Then price action finally breaks through that level, gives you a lower low over here, potential lower high, and now price action is going down to potentially give you a new lower low. So when you go down to the weekly, you see, okay, well, the last price action we looked at off the monthly was bearish, so let's try to frame the bearish scenario. Higher high, higher low, higher high area. Price action doesn't give you a lower higher low or lower low until it breaks below this area looking left. So we can potentially say the high, low, lower high price action breaks below this level here. Um, lower low, lower high, lower low, and potentially this area here now is establishing a new lower low as you get that big ass engulfing bearish candle closing from last week. So as we bring back in the analysis, well, not yet. What we can see is based off of the monthly time frame, as we continue to make higher or lower lows and lower highs, we just broke through that level right here. I would say like 3 months ago, we broke through a level that was that the last high low that pushed us into the highs, and now we're creating lower lows and lower highs below that structure on the lower time frame. So retested the level we broke through here with this candle, then now pushing to see if we can get that new lower low on the weekly, pushing to see if we can get that new lower low on the daily time frame. When we bring back the analysis, now we can identify what some of the markets mean here. So the purple level in the background is where price action broke through on um, that monthly support. We broke through, came back to retest, and now we're back downtrending. We had a weekly reaction zone that we kind of identified several months ago. Price action came down and tapped into that zone and reacted back bullish. So seeing all this price action kind of play out right here kind of, confused me, thinking we was going to go back bullish because we were breaking structure looking left. But if we would have, started to build that scenario from the monthly and the weekly, we would see, okay, well, this after we tapped into this weekly reaction zone down here in the white, this is simply just a retracement of the overall high, low, lower high, lower low structure. And this potentially is a new lower high to push price lower. You can see it a lot better on the weekly. High, low, lower high, lower low, new lower high. Daily is a little bit choppy, makes it a little bit more confusing. So once I identified that going into Thursday, somewhere on Friday, that's why I had those short positions there. And then on the 4-hour chart, if you can still see that purpose on the outline in the background is the 4-hour support that we broke through. We got the retest back in on the was that the 18th? What day was the 18th? The 18th was Thursday. Yep. So that was the that's what helped me formulate this trade idea based off of Thursday's price action. What I saw was price action retest that 4-hour, not 4-hour, but that monthly support that we broke through. Also created a 4-hour resistance on the 4-hour chart. And then once price action started breaking lows looking left, I had the first position. I had a TP1 somewhere up in here that I smashed up, and then TP2 got pushed through on Friday. I did not ultimately am not still in any of these trades. I closed before the weekend, but I just wanted to, have the picture in my mind to see what I was targeting, where price action was going, and why I had that thought idea of how I was going to get there. Currently pushing through demand, looking left. I do think I did check out the news before we got started tonight. I didn't see any major things coming up for the AUD, but the USD does have some major news coming up on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday throughout the week. So potentially that could get the USD strength to come back down to this weekly reaction level and see if we can ultimately break that level. Because last time we tapped down in here too, we gave you a big bullish ass reaction. So now we're gonna see what happens when we come back and touch back into that level. So that's why I had targets there. I was shorting based off of that monthly support level being broken. As we can see, price action has pushed down. From the first entry, we didn't hit at least 70 pips, currently sitting at 59. From the second entry, we're looking at 57 pips currently, sitting at about 40. Only thing I did hold over the weekend was BTC. So over the weekend, I did have a buy limit set at 21,000 even, simply because I said off the higher time frames, this big ass pullback, if price action breaks below this demand zone right over here, then this ultimate retracement to close this correction, to close this gap right over here would be potentially over. Another thing I did identify that this correction here has pulled back and met is 50%. It has pulled back to 50% on the fib level. So ultimately, if price action is getting ready to resume back bearish, if we are only coming back to retest, if we're only creating the reaction after retesting this demand to say we're going to pull back and create that next lower high before resuming back, continuing bearish, then I'm only targeting this area right up in here from those buys that I got in at 2100. I was able to catch a few other positions based off of that ultimate 21 buy level entry. I do have a few of the setups, kind of like how I identified, that demand that I said, okay, well, if price action broke below this level, then we're ultimately going back bearish and will not be able to, at that point, correct all this price action back in over here. Got a demand outlined in the blue. Price action got in. This is not the 2100 21,000 entry, but this is just other entries that I got into. So this buy right over here, I already closed off positions. Was targeting this right up here. We got to buy once price action pushed above. I think I was trying to get in below here, but with the spread and everything, that's why I got in there. So once price action pushed above, closed off some profits, and then that couldn't have been. Or maybe it was. Maybe I just didn't trail the stops today. But yeah, definitely. Once we pushed above, took out some profits, and then trailed the stops. Then once we started making higher highs and higher lows, buy limit still not active yet. And then we came and smashed up targets. Once we pushed into this level based off of the 1 hour time frame, we did come back and activate this buy limit, but then it continued and grabbed liquidity from under here. And that was when I was able to come back. Once it grabbed the liquidity from that 0.2 position, I was able to come back and put these positions in. I did a market execution order right over here, and then a buy stop right over there. And then currently that's where we are in the market. So when we come back to it, that's what price action is. ultimately what I think price action is going to do. I think it well, what I'm expecting is price action to come back to this level, or what I'm looking for is to see if price action comes back to this level most recently broke. If it doesn't, we could continue to resume back bearish from there. If we break above here, then we can come back to the 4 hour resistance where price action broke out from. That broke through all these structural levels looking left. If we stall out right up in here, we could resume back bearish from there. The only thing that would surprise or give me an indication that price action is going to continue bullish is if it closed above that level. And at that point, I will be looking for continuation buys to say that price action is going to continue to go up and correct all this imbalance right over here. Outside of that, I am looking to capture profits right at that 22,300 level from the positions I'm in already. And then after that, we'll see what price action is going to do. Flipping over to GJ. On GJ, we ultimately see that on the higher time frames that price action is consolidating. Whether you go to the weekly, whether you go to the daily, we can see that price action did close above resistance looking left, but ever since we closed above that resistance, we just kind of started to consolidate. When you bring back in the analysis, we can see as price action is making higher highs and higher lows. This was the last area on the daily / weekly before price action created the highs. This was the low that created the high. Price action pulled back into a 4 hour resistance that we kind of identified looking left, came back to retest the highs, did not create new highs, has not created a new low. So ultimately kind of just playing between this swing high and the swing point, the swing low right down here. Based off the 4 hour chart where we can see price action pushed into that supply area, came back, did not really shift structure looking left, came back and retested that area again and just kind of still consolidating right in within this area right up in here. What I was able to do and identify was, okay, I said, well, from this price point right here to here, we were bearish, creating lower highs and lower lows. So you got the high, the low, the lower high, create a new lower low, and then this area, lower high, lower low. Price action broke above that structure. Came back and gave it a retracement and retested the highs, still not able to break the highs looking left. So ultimately, price action could be potentially still bearish based off of this impulsive move here. What we can see is price action does do a lower time frame downtrend, breaking structure looking left. So ultimately, we're looking to see, okay, well, this is the last lower high that pushes into the lows. We don't expect price action to break this lower high if we're going to continue to go bearish. It does. So ultimately, not establishing new highs here, not establishing new lows here. Another consolidation range. Like I said, we can see that on the weekly, the daily, also consolidating on the 4 hour. But when you come down to the 1 hour, we can see if this is the range we're playing between. Last low came up and broke structure looking left, giving you a high, higher low, higher high. We're looking for that 50% retracement to see, okay, within this consolidation range, if we stay above this 50% and push bullish, we can say price action potentially is going bullish from this area here, creating higher highs and higher lows, come back and retest the supply area right up here. Or, if we come and we close below this 50% and start making lower lows and lower highs below there, we potentially break this lower time frame trend line that's within this consolidation zone and retest this support right down here on the 4 hour time frame. GJ is very, very confusing. If you aren't able to break down charts, the hourly charts, the 4 hour charts, the daily charts, and try to create that scenario where you can say, okay, potentially, since we did break structure over here, we can potentially be resuming back bullish, came back to the 50%. Now we're looking to see if price action continues bullish from there. If you're able to break down these from the higher time frame to the smaller time frames, it can get you cooked because ultimately it's just ranging from the higher time frames down. So be careful on GJ. I got possible buys above. Would be breakout trades to simply retest deeper within this range here. Retest here first, probably TP1, and then ultimately back into the higher time frame supply. And then if we start breaking below here, I have impulsive sales. I don't know if I'll impulsively sell that though. But that's just the way I have it identified. I would wait to see price action break below. I wouldn't do impulsive sales. I do continuation sales below that level. I want to see it break below, retest that level, and then continue to break this trend line right down here before coming down to retest that support. Um, GJ, let's go to GU. Let's see here what we got. Based off the higher time, overall bearish. Overall bearish. The way we have things identified, this was the lower high of the daily. That created the new lower low right down here, break of structure. These levels are identified from the weekly because the price action looks a little bit cleaner. As you can see, high, low, lower high area, lower low, lower high, lower low. Once price action came to this area, we didn't cleanly break through that low. We gave a little bit of retracement and then create that lower low. So that's why we take this whole zone from the lower high to the lower low on the daily. What we can see here is price action did retrace a good bit before creating that new lower low based off the weekly and off the daily. So we identified this area here as our 4-hour resistance. To say that from previous price action came down, create the high low. We retested that 4-hour level that created within the market. And then now we're trying to see if we're going to continue to push bearish. We don't necessarily need to have the 4-hour support identified right there, but I just threw it on just for shits and giggles. Just for some people who might need that visual aspect on the chart. But what we can see within that range from the daily, from the lower high to the lower low, we pulled back, met that 50% fib level, and now we're trying to see if price action is going to continue to go bearish. For me, I don't trade GU every day, so what I would look to see first is, does price action retrace back into this 1-hour support level that was just recently broken right up in here and then continue to go bearish, or does it come back and go a little bit deeper all the way back into this 4-hour resistance where price action came back from and then go bearish? At that point, if price action starts to close above this possible buys above area, then no longer should be looking for shorts, because at that point we'd be breaking structure looking left, and then we want to see how price action reacts once it gets above this 1.24-ish area, 24 even, somewhere right up in here, right above there. So at that point, if price action starts to close above that level, we'd be looking for buys at that point. Clicking over to NZD USD, overall higher time frames are bearish. What I did when I was identifying this chart, what I said was, okay, well, same kind of thing as GU. If I was looking for price action to short off from this market once it came back to retest that level, I probably would have got cooked trading the way out or identifying the way in, identifying the charts the way I've been doing so far within this analysis. So what I did was, when I went down to the lower time frame, or from the higher times we identified, we were bearish, lower high, lower low. From the 4-hour, what I said was, okay, well, if we were waiting to see the level that price action identified from the higher time frame was right over here, as we would have came and closed above that level, I would have been looking for buy. So as price action would have came back down and retest that level, I would have been looking to see if it was going to continue to go bullish. I'm gonna identify that because I might not be able to see it that well. But what I'm saying is, if we identify this level as the last lower high within that daily range that pushed us into the lows, and we took away this, and we took away this, this is where I would have got cooked within the market, because based off the data range, the lower high created the lower low. This is the level that price action created within the market to say, okay, well, if we retest here, there's a high probability that if we stall out here, we're going to continue to go back bearish. If we close above, we potentially are going back bullish because we're closing above that 50% point, that's 50% fib level. We're closing above to potentially retest the ultimate supply that pushed us into the low. So once I would have saw this, I probably would have been looking for buys. So as price action would have came back to retest this zone, I would start, looking for buys and probably hopping in early, because if you come down to the smaller time frames, what you can see is price action closes above, retest that level, and then, kind of, push back bullish, breaking the highs, looking left. So ultimately, definitely we've been looking for price action to retest that ultimate supply level, but it does not quite make it all the way up there, and it starts to break structure back to the downside. So what I did was I said, okay, well, if that scenario slash identifying the charts that way doesn't necessarily work out or is not playing out, what else do we see on the chart that we can identify that says, okay, this would have helped us be able to identify this as a potential lower high that's going to go back down to retest that lower low. And just looking left, we can kind of see that price action was making higher highs, higher lows up until this point, right up in here. We made a new high right here. We came down and retested this supply level, support level that pushed us back into the highs, and then we finally broke. So what we can say is from this high point to, I would say, a low somewhere right up in here, and we stretch it left. Even if you wanted to take it a step further and say higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low somewhere right back over here. If you wanted to capture all this, it still would be valid because at this point, price action had not broke this low, came back to retest, gave a bullish reaction, and then we finally broke that low. So we could ultimately say, or I could ultimately say that price action came back on the lower time frames to retest this supply area, this big ass zone versus my 4 hour support. And that is why I could potentially be looking for shorts from that area. You wouldn't necessarily know that unless you was following it live, but how I would have potentially looked for shorts from this area would say, okay, well, if we're coming back to retest this zone right here, once we started coming back to make lower lows and lower highs from here, then I could potentially look for the shorts. So based off of the 1 hour, what we got is, if we delete this, don't necessarily need that. Price action came back to retest that supply on the higher time frames, and now we're making lower lows and lower highs. How we get active this week? I will wait to see if price action comes back to this 1 hour resistance that puts us into the lows, or see if it's ultimately going to come all the way back up to that supply, fill this lower time frame imbalance before dropping again. Another thing we could potentially look for is just see if price action just melt all the way back into this 4 hour support and then see the reaction from there. So how could have got in from last week? Like I said, once we tapped into this higher time frame supply area right up in here, lower lows and lower highs. So as I was said, this would have been the low that pushed us into the highs. We broke below that low. And then I would have had to wait until price action came back to retest that area, which we kind of got here. And then you could potentially short anything below there. There is your retest or retest short position. So if this is below we're identifying, we're looking to see when price action breaks this level, coming from that higher time frame supply, breaks that level, and then retest that level. So potentially the best shorts, without guessing, would have been the next time we break the new low, stops right above, and then target ultimately all the way back down to that 4 hour support, especially with this liquidity building looking left. If you're looking for some scalps, ain't no tell you could have, captured wherever you wanted to capture, but ultimately knowing that from the higher time frames, we're making lower lows and lower highs. This was the last lower high that grade you to lower low. Potentially, this is the new lower high that's going to break through this level and give you that new lower low. So ultimately, TP1 there, and then would have definitely had to hop back out to a higher time frame to see what we could target looking left. And as you can see, as you zoom all the way back out to the daily, you got several levels you can identify right back in over there. But ultimately, we're looking to see if we're going how we react once we get back to that daily demand / 4 hour support. So going this week forward, like I said, looking to see how price action reacts if we just come back into this 1 hour resistance and then melt from there. Ultimately, if we close above here, then I'm looking to see price action potentially come all the way back up here. Kicking over to UJ, bump out to the higher time frames, weekly to monthly. I don't necessarily always bump out to the weekly and monthly, but like I said, with the way price action has been playing out these last few weeks, it has been kind of confusing on the lower time frames. And when that happens to me, I like to bump back, make the picture a lot bigger, so then I can come back and compress and get the information I need. But we can see on the weekly higher highs and higher lows, big bullish, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. When you come down to that daily time frame, it starts to get a little bit choppy as far as what's the level that should be identified that price action should respect. If we're going to continue to go bullish, so based off the analysis, what I did was I identified from the weekly chart higher low that pushes into the new highs, so that when you come down to the daily, um, we've got the demand that pushes into supply right up there. We've got this level that price action has identified, that is created support from, and then allowed us to resume back bullish on a 4 hour chart. So we got some 4 hour supply or 4 hour support level right down there as we come down to the 4 hour chart. what we can see is if we've got that higher low that created the new higher high, price action retraced all the way back down here into that support level right there, and then resume back, making higher highs and higher lows. So going into next week, what I'm looking for, or what I'll wait for to see if I can potentially catch a trade on UJ, I want to see if we pull back to this 1 hour support here first, and then resume back bullish, or if we come back down a little bit deeper into this one and go back bullish. And then if price action starts to close below this level here, it's definitely back to the drawing board, because now you're closing below structure that pushed you into the highs, and you can potentially be back resuming bearish at that point. So overall, UJ bullish. Looking to or waiting to allow it to come down and confirm one of these support levels it would like to hold up against before it resumes back bullish. Eh, pop that on there too. So one of these two zones, one of these two levels, based off of 4 hour, 1 hour chart. Kicking over to gold, I was very wasn't real sure how this analysis would hold up on gold, but just I definitely analyzed it the same way we've been looking at so far, starting from the monthly, weekly, just seeing how the confluences line up. What we can see is um, the supply area that pushes into demand right down here. We got the 1 hour or 4 hour level that was created within the market, coming from higher time frames down, or coming from the higher time frames down to the lower time frames. So where we are within the market right now, what we're looking to see is, does price action continue this bearish trend it's currently in? If we come back and close above this 1 hour resistance level we got right up and over here, we can potentially say price action is going to go deeper within that 4 hour resistance that started to push us into the lows. And if we close above here, we're coming back to retest supply levels way backing up in here. On a bearish scenario, I would wait to see how price action reacts if it does pull back into this 1 hour resistance. If it just comes out and create and continue to open bearish, I want to see continuation trades from here, break and continue to the downside. If we just open up bearish, boom, I want to see it come back and respect this level, and then continue bearish back into this higher time frame demand. And then, like I said, for the bullish scenario, I want to see how we react once we pull back. If we pull back into that level, if it comes and starts to stall out that way, or if it pushes up, closes above, then retests and comes back up into that level. So a few different scenarios from gold. Like I said, I don't trade gold. If you follow my analysis throughout the week, you know I don't trade gold. So this is the way I will look to see how to get active within the markets. Yeah. Break, close below, retest, take it from the downside, give it a retest from here, take it from the downside from there, or scenario number 3, come and close above this 1772 area, retest the highs, and then see if we continue to catch it back to the downside. Ultimately, let's see. Ultimately, from the higher time frame, the way I kind of came up with that analysis was gold has definitely been in a uptrend for a long, long time. And if we say this was the previous swing high, swing low, new higher high, we're now stuck within a consolidation zone to see if we're going to continue to go bullish, or if we're going to come back and retest this supply, not supply, but demand zone right down here before resuming back bullish or continuing bullish. When you bring back the analysis, you can kind of see a lot better the consolidation zone where price action is kind of stuck within. And then when you come to current price action, you can see that price action is creating a bearish trend. So when you go down to the 4 hour and the 1 hour, you identify your levels to say, okay, well, on the 4 hour, we're kind of bullish, creating higher highs and higher lows, ultimately retracing the lower high that pushed you into the lower lows. So this could just be the new lower high that pushed you into the lows. So when you try to create that psychology slash set up within the market to say, okay, where can I get active? What are the things I need to see to potentially take advantage and have a great setup and a great trade? And coming in, creating these weekend analysis for me helps me create those ideas slash psychologies as to where I think the market is going to go. And once I see it close above a certain level or below a certain level, that kind of helps me identify, was I correct coming from the weekend analysis of where I thought the market was going to go, or was I wrong? Did the market play out any type of scenario that I drew up on the chart, or did it just do its own thing? And I was, nowhere near what price action was doing. And then at that point, the way I analyze here, I take that information and I say, okay, well, last time this is what I was looking for. This is what actually happened. So then I go in, I analyze the charts, and I mark up my zones based off of what actually happened, going forward versus what I think is going to happen. So that's kind of what led to the way the charts are analyzed this week. And just seeing how price action play out. I'm not looking to trade all these pairs. I like to get active on AU, Bitcoin, sometimes GJ here lately. But if I come to the charts and one of these analysis have played out or lined up the way I'm looking for it, then yeah, I will take that trade. Bumping over to SPX, S&P 5500, 55, S&P 50. You know what I'm trying to say. Fuck all that. But what we got was price action closing above supply, looking left, and now making higher highs or continuing to make higher highs and higher lows. What we can see based off of the 1 hour chart is price action closed above that 4 hour resistance, creating a new higher high. This was that target area we were looking for like the last 3 weeks. We were looking to see how price action react. Once it got back up into that 42.99 area, you go back and check out the last 5-6 videos. We talk about that on the S&P and on the Nas. Nas is a little bit different number, but we still got that. We still had that level identified way up there. And that paper trade took off for us too that we took last week. But overall, on the S&P, we're looking to see how price action react once it got up into this 42, 99 level. And what we can see is price action has started creating a bearish trend from that level. So what we want to see is does price action respect this 1 hour support that it created within the market, coming from the higher time frame on down? As we can see, price action pushed up, created a higher low, and then created a higher high after that. So we want to see if price action ultimately holds up in that level, or does it come back to the structure most recently broken? From this point, if we start to close below this level right in down over here at 41.6, we can say 41.60. Then potentially you had to go back to the drawing board because you could just continue to make lower lows and lower highs all the way back into demand zone all the way back down here. So yeah. Nah, it's pretty much the same thing. We did have a paper trade based off of that thought idea. Based off of NAS, we did not wait for the reaction. We just kind of said, okay, well, since we already tapped into the level we were looking for, looking left, once price action started to close below structure, we pulled back and was not able to break highs. We took, or I took shorts, paper traded shorts right back in over here. I would say 2 or 3 videos ago. Whatever last week's last video was when we took the trade, was like on Thursday or Wednesday of last week. So if you go back in and check those videos out, you can see what we identified to come up with the psychology behind this trade, and then these are the results of how it has played out. Overall, it is what it is. I am waiting to see where Nas and S&P are going to retrace back to before building that support to say, okay, this is what we need to be to potentially take buys again back into the highs, or to see if we're going to push and make new highs. And I did not analyze GBP AUD. Yeah, AUD USD. I really don't want to delete this. I really want to hold on to it and see how the price opens up. What I will do is, let me see if I need to adjust any levels. We already smashed up these GPs, so we don't really necessarily need that on there. We can take this off. We can take this off. We can take this off. Let's see. Yep. Get rid of you. I want to hold on to all this. See how we break through that level. Ultimately, want to see we got a on the daily. What we doing? Yep. Push us into the highs. We're coming back to that level. Don't really have a level identified just yet. Based off of this structure here, don't really have a level identified just yet of where price action is going to pull back to. What I can kind of see just based off experience and watching price action for the last 3 years, from 69,697 down to 69,119. Price action is going to be choppy right up in there, and then I think it's ultimately going to pull back somewhere between 70,109 and 7405 before resuming back bearish. When you bring the analysis back, I had the drawings. If we get any retracement back, I think those are the two levels we could bounce off of because of how this liquidity is building looking left or has built looking left. We potentially could melt right through those areas, but I think that would hold out for the news that's potentially coming up sometime next week for that USD. That's only if the USD is going to be picking up strength. I have not read through that news to see what's going on there, but from the daily, high, low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high. Let's see, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high. Yeah, lower, low. So, high, low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high. Yeah, so this would be a range. We have not created that support level just yet. So, only thing we necessarily have from the 4 hour chart is this lower high area here. We don't necessarily know the lower low because we have not had a bullish close just yet. We can get rid of this, and then hold on to this. Drag it over to here. Identify our weekly open. And then what we're looking to see is if price action pulls back, we got a 1 hour level right here. But if price action comes and closes above that 1 hour level, we can expect a deeper retracement back into this 4 hours resistance. If it stays below this 1 hour level, I'm about to identify here to here, 1 hour resistance. If we stay below this 1 hour level, then potentially we could be looking at shorts to break below and continue down to break through this level, looking left with all this liquidity building, and then ultimately come back down to retest this level right down here. So that's what I'm looking for. That's how I'm getting active this week. Yeah, Bitcoin ultimately doing some things for me right now, but I would love to see it continue to close this gap right up from here and then even push higher for the positions that I'm in. But if it doesn't, then back to the drawing board. At this point, I think I can slide all stop to break even. Yeah, and just see what it do from there. But that's all I got from this one. Eagerly waiting the market to open. Coming from this higher time frame perspective, seeing how everything plays out this week. If you got any questions, drop a comment. Hit the boy in them comments. Hit that like and subscribe button. As always, we do appreciate you watching. Yeah, and I'm out. Peace. What? Peace. Hey man, you ain't gonna keep coming up here interrupting my shows, man. I'm trying to get active with the public, and you all in the back talking about chocolate milk and grizzly bears on TV. Man, I'm out, y'all. I'll holler at y'all next week.